The Princess and the Goblin is a British-Hungarian hand-drawn animated feature from 1991. It follows a girl of royalty named Princess Irene, whose kingdom is in danger from some devious underground goblins led by its king, queen, and prince. It's up to Irene and her friend Curdy, a mining boy, to stop the goblins' plans with the help of Irene's magical grandmother. Okay, so I found the story for this film to be very weak and mediocre, especially in its terms of plotting. The structure of the tale is very scrambled and nothing much really happens. There's no clear goal or destination for the characters. They're just two kids trying to take on a horde of goblins with no weapons or no smart tactics. It's kind of asinine to watch. Sure, they try their best, but clearly they have no chance. Sure, they have methods of paralyzing them for a short time, but that's not enough. My point being, Irene and Curdy never thought in advance about what they were trying to achieve. The protagonists don't seem to know what they're supposed to be doing. They don't really have an aim, they're unfocused. And this affects the story. Nothing productive happens. Now, you could argue that the thread of Irene's grandmother's ring is what she's supposed to be following. Well, even that doesn't make the story any stronger for me. The thread doesn't really take them anywhere that important. It just takes them to the Goblin's kingdom and then returns them back home. It's like they're going in a circle and nothing is achieved. No progression is made. The goblins are still a danger after this sequence. The only characters with any clear idea of what they're doing are the goblins themselves, and they spend half the film sleeping. Things only start getting engaging and productive during the final act of the film, when the goblins invade Irene's kingdom. But I found the final battle in the film to be really boring. It's blandly choreographed, so there's not really any tension. Plus, it doesn't really last that long. The film also heavily relies on dialogue to express any exposition or characters' feelings, so half the characters have a hard time shutting up. Despite this, there are parts that focus on visuals or limited dialogue to tell the scene, and these are the moments that I enjoyed the most. The part of the film that annoyed me the most was a point in the film where Irene's grandmother gave her a ring, and she encouraged her to follow the thread from the ring. Then, later on, Irene has a dream where her grandmother tells her the same thing. What? It makes the dream sequence completely pointless. Why are you repeating this? Despite the flaws of the film's story, certain characters were actually very entertaining. Irene herself breaks the princess trope by being surprisingly brave, but she still remains innocent and impulsive enough to make us believe that she's a realistic child. In terms of power structure, the royal goblin family are kind of a confusing bunch. I mean, the king is a bumbling buffoon with no authority, and the queen puts most of the royal power in the hands of their son, Prince Froglip. However, Prince Froglip is kind of goofy and unthreatening as a head villain. He's too silly and seems to have the presence of a minion rather than a villain, while the Queen is the toughest and smartest goblin of them all. She's full of stern and cruel malevolence. She's also smart enough to protect her feet with rock shoes. You see, a goblin's weak spot is their feet. So I was surprised that she wasn't developed into the film's head antagonist instead of the prince. Now, don't get me wrong, the prince is the brainchild of all the goblin schemes. But personality-wise, Prince Froglip is kind of childish and silly. However, the Queen does think the world of the prince, and maybe that's why she grants all this power to him, to spoil him. Now, this would make less sense in a human royal family, but because we're in the context of a goblin society, which can be considered quite primitive, it's plausible for a queen to put her maternal instincts before her role in the royal family. Curdy, the mining boy that joins Irene on her adventure, has little to no personality. That being said, he's a pretty brave kid that seems to be the only one competent enough to do anything about the goblins when they invade the kingdom. Seriously, the royal guards actually get drunk in the middle of the invasion. It's all up to this little boy to do most of the fighting. It's never explained why the guards suddenly start drinking. However, my biggest problem is with the character of Irene's great-grandmother. She's sweet, lovely, and helps Irene out, but it's never fully explained why she's still alive and has unlimited powers. I mean, this is a film packed with forced exposition, yet the film could not be bothered to sum up her grandmother's abilities and existence. Now, I'm not saying that the film should have relied on forced exposition to explain why her great-grandmother is still alive and has magical powers, but I would have appreciated a clearer reason. How do they explain this character? By just saying, it's magic. And this really grated on me. To me, stating that it's magic is not enough. It's a lazy alternative to giving an interesting or imaginative reason for something in a fantasy film. I spent half the time distracted by the fact that I didn't know the reason for her grandmother's ability to use spells or how she had stayed alive all this time. Now, the animation for The Princess and the Goblin is fluent, versatile, and convincing. But facial expressions on some characters come off as stiff or wooden. It's kind of creepy. There's hardly any life in the eyes of the human characters. It seems like the animators put most of their effort into the expressions of the goblins and the animals. I actually found the background art to be far more absorbing than the character animation, if I'm honest. I was entranced by the lush countryside landscapes and the immensely detailed caverns of the Goblin Kingdom. I also loved the designs for the royal goblins. They have this neon punk aesthetic that's very unique. So what about the voice acting? Well, everyone in the cast puts a hard effort into their delivery while also managing to convey the right emotions. Princess Irene is voiced by Sally Ann Marsh, and she makes the character seem believably elegant, but also adds a sense of vulnerability to Irene. Curdie is voiced by Peter Murray, and it was his only voice performance to date. Murray is quite impressive for a one-time child actor. However, one of the most notable performers in the cast is Rick Mayall of Young Ones and Bottom fame, as Prince Froglip. Mayall gives his trademark energy to his character, but, well, he has this running joke of spitting half his lines, and this habit would often lacerate my enjoyment of Froglip's voice. The music in The Princess and the Goblin isn't very noticeable, but I liked the score's use of flute in some scenes. However, another Goblin weakness is the sound of singing, so a defense mechanism used by Curdie throughout the film is a song called A Spark Inside Us. It's a very uplifting track that's like an orchestration of courage. It's nicely performed by Curdie's singing voice Paul Keating. It's reprised a lot throughout the film and never seemed to be tiring to me. The Princess and the Goblin is your average fantasy adventure fare that doesn't embrace anything new. It has a great protagonist though and fantastic voice work, but I don't think I'm going to remember this film in the future. I wouldn't put it alongside such British achievements as The Snowman, When the Wind Blows or Watership Down, but it should entertain younger viewers. I'm aware that many people grew up with the film and appreciate it to this day, but it just didn't leave much of an impact on me personally. It's worth seeing if you're a Rick Mayall fan or just want to check out a part of UK cartoon history. If you did grow up with the film, I'd be interested to know what you did like about the movie when you were a child, and if you have seen it again as an adult and you have the same feelings about the movie. If you're one of those people, then go ahead and comment below. I'd love to know what you think of the movie.
There's a power in every breath. There's a power in every